sometimes not.
I'm not sure that this one was even worth saving.
I learned how to build guitars as an apprentice in this shop. So I took advantage of the fact that Curtis had gotten the formal training, and he was just setting up the shop here in Huntingdon, and decided that the best way of figuring out if you know how to do something is to try to teach someone else how to do it. And I was the lucky recipient of that teaching.
There's no question that building collaboratively with Johanna here raised the quality of the instruments that we built.
When I was 13, my parents took me to the Martin Guitar Factory, and that was a very eye-opening experience because we use so many things in our daily lives, but we don't frequently think about what is actually inside them, how they're made, the decisions that are made to make certain things work some way or another. And seeing the inside of an instrument and seeing how people actually were manipulating wood and tools to create something that, again, most people don't think about as a process to build, they just know it as a final product.
Stringed instruments principally have two major components that allow that to happen. The top of the instrument, or the soundboard, and then the supporting structure of the instrument, which in the case of a guitar are the back and the sides of the guitar. And so by manipulating those woods, the materials themselves, what species of wood is chosen, and how they're worked, how they're braced or reinforced, you can hopefully guide that process.
Gluing on the braces, carving the braces, bending the sides, gluing the box together, making the neck, carving the neck, fretting the instrument, putting the finish on. The whole process, depending a little bit on where we start with raw materials and how fancy the instrument is going to be, typically it would be about 150 to 200 hours worth of work. We use measurements to figure out what we're going to start with, but it really comes down to what looks good. We also use chisels and other small hand tools to remove wood from the braces. A lot of our bracing we carve in various different ways to try to get a certain tone out of it. We scallop certain braces, we taper other braces, and that's all a hand process that we go through. In a factory setting, a lot of the braces are pre-carved and glued onto the back or top with a lot of the wood already removed. By doing that hand work, we are able to really customize it to that particular instrument. To bend the side, we will use a jig with the wood already pre-wet. It's not soaking wet, but it's moist. We place that thin prepped side piece of wood in between two sheets of flexible metal, and then we force it along the curvature of that particular shape. In our case, we use high wattage light bulbs as a source of heat, and we'll actually put that wood in place, clamped against the hot surface, but we'll leave that light bulb on for about 15 minutes. That'll help to dry the wood out in that particular shape against the curvature of the sides shape that we want. We'll leave the shape of the side in the jig, in the side bender, until it has cooled down completely, generally somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour. We've always joked that if you don't know what to get a luthier for Christmas, you can always get a clamp. We have so many different types of clamps for a variety of different jobs. Clothespins, sometimes binder clips, special clamps for gluing on bridges, special clamps for gluing certain braces onto the sides. Our wall of clamps, we probably have 10 or 12 different varieties of clamps throughout the shop. One of the sort of stranger versions of a clamp that we use is actually called a go bar, and it's a very simple clamp where you actually use a piece of material. In our case, we use dowels longer than the distance between two fixed surfaces. Using that dowel and bending it to fit in between the brace that we're trying to clamp in, it actually creates downward force and holds that brace in place. It's an interesting process that's very ancient, very low tech, Not used in a lot of other applications, but is very effective for building guitars because a lot of times we're trying to place a brace in a location where it would otherwise be very difficult to get a clamp to fit. The world of luthiery is predominantly men. There are very few successful women luthiers who are making a business building guitars.
Frequently, when we've had clients here in the building looking at instruments, it's her input in that aesthetic world that ends up working and winning the day and producing the instrument that clients tend to be happy with. There's no question about whether she brings substantial skill in her own right, even though I'm the one that was formally trained to build instruments. She has picked up on basically anything and everything that I was ever trained to do, and frequently has been the one to actually take it the next step and improve the techniques. So I'm the hack, really. So, and she's the artist. I'm the hack. Isn't it pretty?
It is
It's
pretty.
gorgeous.